Your body knows how to be healthy. I'm your host, Martha Blessing, and this is the Place to Be Free podcast, a show that is passionately devoted to illuminating the potential within you to transform your health and life. We're shaking up and breaking up old paradigms so you can free up your mind and body, elevate your consciousness, and create profound well-being and a ridiculously happy and healthy life. On this show, we defy the norms and embrace a journey toward profound well-being and creating true freedom. We challenge patriarchal medicine, question fear-based culture, and dive deep into topics like quantum healing, energy medicine, mental science, consciousness, and universal spiritual laws. Whether you're here for solo explorations or the insightful interviews with individuals who've conquered fear and disease and broken through limitations, you're in for a transformative experience. If you're seeking empowerment, if you're ready for a life-changing shift, you're in the right place. Welcome to the podcast. Hey everyone, Martha Blessing, and welcome back to another episode of the Place to Be Free podcast. So it's been just about a year and a half since we have been on actively producing the podcast. And why did I take a break? Well, I took a break because I got very, very busy, quite honestly, in my healing practice and my mentoring practice with clients. And I also felt that there was enough, honestly, information and people who were presenting work out in the world to help people get to the place that they needed to go in their healing, in their physical, their mental, their emotional, their spiritual well-being. And recently, during that time, like during a year and a half of working so deeply and intensely with clients, I knew in my heart that I had to come back to working on the podcast and producing episodes again and bringing the teachings, bringing these universal spiritual laws and mental science and consciousness, because healing is indeed, when you have physical symptoms, it's about consciousness. It's about the consciousness of holding the energy of the fact that you are already healthy and whole into your body and your being and your energy, right? So I started to see where all of the places were, the beliefs, the mindset that has been getting in the way and holding people back. And so I really want to start to bring these tools, this information forward so that you can understand the how of healing, the mechanism of healing, because I still come back to, we have all of these things. We have medicine, right? We have Western medicine, we have holistic, we have alternative, we have functional, we have nutrition, we have diet. Like we have a plethora of things available to us now. Why are people still sick? Why are they getting sicker? Why do we have all of these symptoms and these mysterious, like the autoimmune? And there are so many people come to me in my practice, in my work, in my programs that they say, like, I've done everything, I've tried everything, and they go down the laundry list of everything they have done. So why hasn't it shifted, or why have they only gotten to a certain point and then not been able to be completely free of the symptoms? I personally have had that experience, so I know that it is possible. And because we are all created from the exact same cloth, so to speak, it was possible for me is possible for you and for anyone listening, anyone out in the world, because we are all energy and we all created from that same cloth. So why was I able to heal? Why have my clients been able to heal when nothing else worked? Why, if you're listening to this, are you still stuck? Where are you still stuck? And so that's why I'm coming back to the microphone and to the podcast. And I'm very, very excited to start to bring new episodes and share the insights. So I want to talk a little bit about what's holding us back in general as a culture, as a society in our healing, number one. And, there really is no roadmap. If you've listened to the podcast before, you listened to me talk about the 4 levels of consciousness and healing. Well, there really isn't. There's a few people. I will say, I'm not so full of myself that I believe that I'm the only person doing this work. No, there are plenty of people who are doing this higher level of work, but there's not enough. There's not enough people that are leading in this next level of full embodiment of your divine sovereign health and well-being and prosperity, and literally breathing more life, into your body, into your being, right? So if you are someone who values self-empowerment, who values personal growth, personal development, spiritual development, and really stepping into this idea of expansion for yourself and your life and your health and your healing, this is the place for you. Because there are many, many people who do often come to me, find me on the internet, find my website, find me online, and they see that I do energy work and quantum healing and quantum energy work. And I don't end up working with them because they have this idea that I'm going to fix them. I don't need to fix anyone. My work, my purpose, my path in this life is to reveal your state of wholeness and health to you and allow you to become, like I said, fully embodied in your own path, in your own healing, in removing the symptoms. And so I did that work for many, many years where people just came and they sat on, sat in the chair in the office and laid on my healing table. And it would last for, a few days, maybe a week, and they'd come back in a month. The shift, the change in the consciousness, in their beliefs, in their internal identity and beliefs about themselves and their body and their being had not changed in any way. So that's what this podcast is about, helping you understand these paradigms and these shifts. And what's happening, why I'm coming back to the podcast now, is to help elevate everyone into this paradigm and really understand the mechanism. So what's happening, and it kind of saddens me, but I don't focus on that. If you are the person who values personal growth and development and wants to be embodied and empowered, then we have to take a look at and address fear, because fear, if we listen to the media, which is everywhere, and it's incredibly fear-based, we're being programmed, right? I've gone through this recently in my move to my dream location, my dream world and dream life on the shoreline of the Long Island Sound. I moved to a different location, a different state, and I do occasionally go to medical doctors. I certainly at times have a desire and a need for that. And so I had to find all new practitioners, all new providers. And it really, really, really became aware to me how we have been indoctrinated and programmed by all of this fear. Our bodies are going to break down and turn against us. We better have the good health insurance. We better have this. We better in age, right? Like, I've witnessed the health insurance and the Medicare and all of these entities, and I personally feel and have this belief about how disempowering it all is. If you listen to it and if you believe it, and this is what they want it to be. They want you to be disempowered. The more disempowered you are, the more you are reliant on that system that is going to continue to keep you in confusion, keep you in fear, keep you in doubt. The cancer industry, you've heard me talk, if you've listened to any of the episodes previously on my journey with cancer. And I did not seek treatment in Western medicine. Well, I take that back. I did go to a cancer center. I did not choose the treatment that they recommended. I chose my path, and the cancer was gone. When they went to look at it and follow up again, it was gone. So what do we do about this fear? Number one, please recognize that it is fear-based, right? They're looking at the money. They're looking at the finances. They're looking at people having to spend a lot of money on testing, on prevention. No. What they're calling prevention is not prevention. Early screening and detection is not prevention. It's just screening and detection. And they know, quite honestly, the AMA, the medical community, the pharmaceutical companies, like this is not, when you really look and follow the studies that are out there, like we know that as our body goes through the healing process, our cells shift and change, and they go through autophagy, which is the process of healing. I'm not going to go deep into autophagy now, but Google it, look it up on the internet and see what it is. Okay? Our body is incredibly intelligent. God didn't create junk. You don't have to tell yourself, your hair to grow, your nails to grow. This is divine intelligent wisdom. And it is moving and animating our body and our cells and our health and our well-being at 24 hours a day. So this process of autophagy is your body's course correction. Well, of course, when you're going to see maybe abnormal cells, or the body is doing its job. Okay. The body is doing its job. And what's happening is it's clearing out the garbage. It's clearing out the minutia. It's clearing out the old dead cells. And it is going to show up on some kind of a film, on some kind of an X-ray or a CT or an MRI. And so when they're constantly doing these exams, of course, they're going to see something. The body's doing its job. But what they're not telling you is that this is normal, and they're buying into fear. Now, the medical community, in a lot of ways, I don't blame them in any way for this. It is the culture. But now it's what I have called frequently CYA medicine, cover your ass medicine. How does this show up? I'll give you the perfect example. Many of you know or don't know, I eat primarily a carnivore and ketovore diet. And so when I switched to this path and this way of eating, I really wanted to be knowledgeable and have the information to sort of arm myself with whatever doctors or practitioners. Like I go ahead and get my labs and my blood work done because I want to monitor my triglycerides, my HDL, my LDL. I want to know what my A1C. I want to be metabolically healthy. I don't want to be insulin resistant. I want to be insulin sensitive, right? And so in this process, I went ahead and had the doctor order, I paid out of pocket to have these tests done so that I would know what my numbers and my markers were. So I did have a coronary artery scan, right? My dad had heart disease, and I don't believe in the genetic model of heart disease, but as I was educating myself on everything that I was doing and the choices that I was making, taking 100% responsibility, I wanted to be able to know what was going on metabolically in my body. So I had the coronary artery scan to see if there was calcification or plaque in my coronary artery that would be a possible indicator to be at risk for heart disease, right? So I had that done. And then I also had advanced lipid profile done to look at not just like my LDL and triglycerides and HDL and things like that, but to know exactly what type of LDL I had, because there are different types, and the big, large, fluffy molecules of LDL are fantastic, and we need those, and we should have those, and they protect us. And so I did all of this testing, and I also had a test done for C-reactive protein to see if there was inflammation in my body. Well, on that coronary artery scan, now you have to think about this. It's kind of apples to oranges, right? But so it was 0. It was a very good indicator that there's no coronary artery disease in my body, despite the fact that I have, according to, quote, the norm, which has been proven many, many times now. If you read The Big Fat Lie, Nina Teicholz's book, she goes into how cholesterol and some of these things are not truly a marker in all of the studies now for heart disease. So I'm kind of diverging here, but on that coronary artery scan, they're looking at my coronary arteries. They're looking at my chest. Of course, it's going to pick up other parts of the body on the scan, right? And so it did. It picked up parts of my right side of my lungs and my lower lobe. And it showed that there was, in the report, a 4-millimeter nodule in my lungs. Okay, fine. Well, the cancer that I had typically was in the lungs and the liver, even though when I got diagnosed, it was not. And it's a very rare form of cancer. Only 1 in 1 million people have had it in the world, and there's actually no treatment or real protocol for the treatment. So I don't really look to get tested for any of those things, but it came up. So I'm doing my due diligence, right? Because if I do see something that's there, I'm going to use what I know to use to actually heal it myself, rather than go through poisoning my body with chemotherapy and things like that. So fast forward a year later, and I'm in a new state, and I'm looking for new primary doctors who will order labs for me and help me monitor my own labs and health and well-being. And I mentioned to him, I gave him a copy of the scan, and he said, well, I'd like to do a follow-up and a chest x-ray, a CT scan. That is CYM medicine. Albeit that he's being diligent and he's, making sure that there's nothing there, and he's doing further testing. And I was in agreement with that, but it is still CYA. He admitted it to me. He said to me, because they have electronic charting now, he said, I have to be very, very careful with what I write and what I document and how I write it, because the patients and the clients can see everything that I write, because they can go into their own chart and see the notes. And so he's doing due diligence, because if he did not do a CT scan and it came back in a year or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years that I had nodules in my lungs, and I previously had a cancer that typically was in the lungs and the livers, then I could come back and sue him for malpractice. This is where they're practicing from. So this is why I'm telling you this long story, is because this is where medicine is bringing fear consistently into our medicine, into our practice, into, he's not really practicing medicine. He's practicing fear. He's in fear of being sued. If you bring the energetics of fear to your practice, you can't help but just continue to proliferate fear. That's the energy. And he's not being intuitive. He's not looking at all these things. He's just being a machine, right? And he's just ordering and reading and ordering and reading. And again, it's still not prevention. It's still not prevention. We'll talk about that in another podcast, what prevention is, right? How do we stop the fear? So back to this evaluation and story about fear, he did the CT scan. And so then I get the results of the CT scan, and now it looks like there's a nodule in the right lower lobe of the lung that's actually 7 millimeters. And then there's also one in the upper lung that's 7 millimeters. So now, right, and, don't think I'm immune to every single bit of this. I was like, well, I'm doing due diligence, and a lot of people ask me, how do you know when to use medicine, Western medicine, and when to use all of these other healing methods? Well, when you're in trust, you will intuitively know. Your heart, your subconscious mind, your higher self will tell you exactly what to do. And you can blend both, right? You can, I didn't need a diagnosis. But so they're seeing these nodules in my lungs. I could have gone into fear and panic. I could have very easily. And I thought, well, it was 4 millimeters. Now it's 7 millimeters in the lower lobe. Has it grown? Has it doubled in size? That's a concern for me, right? Not because I'm in fear, but because there's something that's moving and changing and growing. And I know what to do. As a medical medium, as a medical intuitive, as an energy intuitive, I know what to do. I can see into the energy of everything. So that's how I'm going to heal it. But I still want to know if there's been a change, because then I'm responsible for holding something in myself that's creating the symptom. So I went ahead and booked an appointment. I wanted to see a pulmonary specialist who is hyper qualified and has the credentials and the experience to look at these x-rays, to look at these films. And, if you don't know about this, it literally goes slice by slice by slice by frame of the body. So I had a conversation with him, and I said, look, a coronary artery scan is not meant to measure what's happening in my lungs. It's meant to measure my coronary arteries, but it picked up on this little 4 millimeter nodule. Is that 4 millimeter nodule that's in this scan and this report the same nodule that's now 7 millimeters? Can you see that? Can you tell me that? And he was an absolutely fabulous doctor. And I don't say that about too many physicians, but he was a fabulous doctor. And he asked me, he said, are you in healthcare? Because I was talking his language, right? It wasn't even that I was being intelligent. I was talking his language. So he knew that I knew something. And he said, well, yes, I'm agreeing with everything that you're saying. And he pulled up the screen and he showed me the different locations. And he does have the experience. And so he knows. And he's singing that. Now he's putting the pieces together. This is what I love about someone who's being intuitive, even in the medical field. He was not raising red flags and being in fear or creating fear. He said, this looks to me, this newer scan and this newer nodule. I had actually had COVID in January, Christmas time, end of December and into January. It took me quite a while to kind of clear whatever was the mucus and things that were moving through my body. And I had the chest x-ray or the CT scan shortly after I had healed from that. So he said, this looks to me, and he enlarged it on the film so that I could see it. He said, this right here is an airway. And this looks to me like a mucus plug, what they're calling a nodule. It looks like it was just mucus in the airway that you were clearing out as the residual of COVID. Okay. I was like, yay, that's what I wanted to hear. At no time would I allow myself to go into any kind of thinking, truly, even after having cancer. I didn't ever sit at home thinking about, oh my God, what if this is cancer? I don't allow my mindset and my thinking to go to those places because I have a belief that our body is constantly clearing out, which is exactly what it was doing. The intelligent wisdom of my body was clearing things out. And I gave you this example to understand what autophagy and our body's intelligence and wisdom is doing 24/7. And so this idea of screening all the time for, every kind of cancer, especially like the colon cancer and things like that, I will share with you in another podcast very soon, another episode about a client how we worked on his healing he's had ulcerative colitis for probably almost 2 decades. He never really took the medications. He didn't feel that sick. He didn't have a lot of symptomatology. And he also had elevated liver enzymes. And his doctors were pushing him. Number one, he had a colonoscopy. He had a couple of polyps. And because of this ulcerative colitis, they said, that's it. You need to remove your colon. The hematologists and the liver doctors are telling him that these elevated liver enzymes, even though he has no symptomatology at all, except for the lab values, they're practicing this fear-based CYA medicine, is you have to take the drugs. We can't accept that this is just happening in your body right now. We've got to do something about it or we're going to get sued. We've got to do something about it or we're getting sued. We want you to take the drugs. And the same thing happened when I went to this new primary doctor and he saw my LDL. He wasn't that concerned. Like, I know my numbers. I know my triglycerides. I know my triglyceride to my HDL ratios. I know my A1C. I'm metabolically healthy despite these elevated levels. And, I may go into that in another podcast, but he documented in the chart. He did what was politically correct. He documented in the chart that, you said that you weren't concerned about the LDL levels and that you didn't want to treat them at this time because of your diet that you're doing and blah, blah, blah. Like, he has to document that he addressed this with me so that I don't come back and sue him if something goes awry. That's what he wants to protect himself on. Unfortunately, he doesn't read enough and keep up with the literature and the studies and what's really going on. They are so overworked and in such a state, they don't have time. They don't have time to read the current literature and studies that are out there. And so, this is why we're back. This is why I'm back with the podcast. I want to empower you. I want to help bring you out of the fear and out of the mindset of fear and to understand how we create illness in our bodies. It's not just about, did I eat the wrong thing? It's not just about the supplements. Your body knows how to be healthy. You've heard me say it a million times. So welcome back to the podcast. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. And there's no real roadmap in Western medicine for this next level of healing. I will link in the show notes the videos, the YouTube videos, and the podcasts that go into the 4 levels of consciousness and healing. We're talking about the work that I do. The place that I want to help you get to is to be fully empowered and trusting yourself and your intuition and your body and knowing what to do next, how to remove the symptoms for yourself, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and to live in alignment with your God self and your true self. And that is the place that is your sovereign health. You may be at level 2, level 3 right now. You may be giving your power away to continuing to go to doctors and go to holistic practitioners and things like that. But you have a desire, a true desire, and a knowing that you can heal. So stay tuned. I'm excited to be back. I'm excited for you to be here. And if you want help with your process and going to this next level of embodiment, of embodied healing, please reach out to me at marthablessing.com, and I will see you in the next podcast. Thanks for joining me on another episode of the Place to Be Free podcast. If you found inspiration in our discussions on empowered living, mindset, and spiritual laws and healing, don't forget to subscribe and share the wisdom with your community. Connect with me on social media, and for exclusive content, free resources, and to stay updated on upcoming episodes, visit the website at marthablessing.com/free stuff. Until next time, remember, you're the author of your story. Keep breaking through barriers, defy old worn-out beliefs and patterns, and create a life without limitation. I'll see you in the next episode.